Such your mess in the TV room?
Yeah, I was gonna clean it up.
I'm glad we can talk about anything.
Yeah, you're my buddy.
Amy, don't do this to me.
I meant what I said. Grades go down, car's not around.
So how you doing this morning?
I mean, besides the fact that there was a shooter on the New York City subway.
Whoa, so you're in New York right now?
I'm in New York. I guess there was in the rush hour at 8:30 in the morning. Some guy had like a gas mask on and a gun, and he got on at Sunset Park, Brooklyn. I guess, or I don't know where he got on, but the shooting happened there, and 5 people were shot. I don't know if any died. 13 people were injured. It's just, I mean, the subway it's such like a vulnerable place. I love the subway. I love the New York City subway. I feel very like protective of it because we're underground, so we all have to like get along.
Yeah.
And the fact that I mean, a gunman on the subway is kind of my worst nightmare because you're trapped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, besides that, I'm great, but I'm a little worried about, my city.
Yeah. Well, thank God you're okay, but yeah, that's tragic. I don't know what this world's coming to these days. Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff happening in LA as well. A lot of shootings, robberies, and
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I feel like coming out of this pandemic, we've been through a lot, and a lot of people are not okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's still like a lot of effects from the pandemic, and people have been closed up for so long. Once they're out, they just is all this energy that's releasing. A lot of it's negative. Yeah, it's like the world is not going to be the same again. I don't know what it is. It's just a certain energy out there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's good energy too. But it feels like this like epic fight between like, very good and very dark.
Yeah.
There's a lot of illness. There's a lot of struggle. A lot of people are really, really struggling. You see it now, again, in the way that I remember in the 90s, New York City looked a little more, you'd see people like obviously mentally ill, and I see that a lot more now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. So, oh yeah, too. I want to, of course, talk about your film. uh, uh, so tell me about it. Life After You.
yeah. So it's inspired. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you so much for um, for advertising and publicizing our show, our movie.
You're welcome.
So Life After You is inspired by the book Life After You: What Your Death from Drugs Leaves Behind, that was written by Linda Latterman, whose son Danny passed away, overdosed on a batch of heroin that had been laced with fentanyl. And he OD'd in his childhood home, in his bedroom. His parents found him, and about a month after that happened, Linda didn't know what else to do. So she posted on Facebook about how lost she was feeling, and really wanting to warn people in her community that, like, there's fentanyl on the streets now. There's a drug out there that can kill you after one usage. Opioids are bad enough as they are, but now with this, with fentanyl, with carfentanil that's now out there, she wanted to sound the alarm bell, specifically for teens, for young adults, to tell them that the drugs that I had grown up with, that she had grown up with, are different than the drugs that are out there now. And she got such response from this Facebook post. So many people, unfortunately, have stories of their own related to loss and addiction, that she decided to write a little book called Life After You. And Charlene Giannetti, who had interviewed Linda about the book, contacted me because she knew my work as an actor. And Charlene wanted to get this story out to more people. So she, knowing nothing about film production, was like, let's make a film of this. And I didn't know Charlene at the time, but I was so moved by her passion, by the fire in her belly, that that I signed on. I signed on to play Linda in the movie. But also, I after speaking to Linda, I asked Charlene if I could take a shot at writing the screenplay. And I ended up writing the screenplay, co-writing it with the woman who directed Life After You, whose name is Sarah T. Schwab.
And is this your first writing credit? Have you written in the past?
This is my first screenwriting credit. I've written plays before, but I've never written a screenplay. And Sarah had never written a full length either. So this was a real labor of love and faith, because we felt the responsibility to really do this right, to honor Danny's memory, to honor the Latterman's family's experience, their grief. And it was a little daunting to think, all right, we're going to tackle the worst day of these people's lives, and how they grappled with that struggle in the months after Danny's death.
And what was the role preparation in your storytelling? I know there's a preparation course as an actress. Also, as for the storytelling, the writings, how did you prepare for both of those roles?
Unfortunately, there are so many people who have been touched by this epidemic, and I started to meet them. I started to meet mothers who have lost their sons, and now they're active in the process of making sure that this doesn't happen, or trying to make sure that this doesn't happen to other people. And there was such meaning for a lot of these women, Linda included, in making their son's death mean something beyond just, a meaningless waste of a life. The women that I met, including Linda, felt this sense of mission and purpose when they realized, okay, I am not alone. There are so many mothers out there going through the same thing. How can we get through to kids? How can we scare them into realizing that if they choose to take drugs that they buy off the street, they may well die if there's fentanyl in their batch of drugs. As an actor, my biggest resource is my imagination. So I would meet these women and I would listen and try to soak in their energy, and imagine, what would this feel like? And from talking to Linda, one of the things that occurred to me as a really strong sort of metaphor for what she went through was like, that feeling when you're in a dream, you're in a nightmare, and it's the worst nightmare of your life, and you're terrified, and you have all these feelings, and all this horrible stuff is happening, but you're in a nightmare. You're dreaming. That this isn't real life. And you keep wanting to wake up, and you keep saying, oh my God, this feels so real. But I know I just have to wake up. I just need to wake up. I'm so scared. And I thought that's how she felt. Like she couldn't accept for a long time that this had actually happened to her, because she was so blindsided by it. So a lot of the film is her trying to wake up, like refusing to accept the reality of having seen her son dead, in rigor mortis, blue face, having vomited, and having that image in her head. It was as if she was living in a parallel universe where suddenly she was in a living nightmare. And that helped me activate the way Linda sort of navigated a lot of her journey in the film.
It sounds like a nice, not nice, but like, it's a heavy topic. I like the topic, I like the concept of the film a lot.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer. I definitely want to see the film. And what you were saying, I want to ask you, in regards to the fentanyl epidemic, or what is like the root cause that you think? Like, what's the responsibility behind the epidemic, or the root cause? What causes it? Because it's like it came out of nowhere, like suddenly.
There's so many different factors. I mean, and not the least of which at all, what I consider to be the greatest crime of the 20th century is that there were greedy pharmaceutical companies. Talk about drug dealers. I mean, we should turn the war on drugs on them, because they profited, they made money by falsely marketing, creating false scientific tests. I mean, grossly, just absolutely false tests that they would give to doctors as evidence, which it wasn't, because it was lies, that said that opioids were not addictive. So opioids became prescribed for lots of different kinds of pain in 70s, 80s, 90s, anything from back pain to headaches. People were given opiates, which are incredibly addictive. So, I mean, I recommend this series on Hulu called Dope Sick, and it really chronicles in detail how everyone from the FDA, which approves drugs, they were bought off. I mean, it's this chain of criminal and negligent behavior that allowed for I put a lot of responsibility on their feet, because they convinced many doctors to prescribe opioids to many, many patients, and got a lot of people hooked on over-the-counter pain meds. And when they stopped getting their prescriptions, when the dosage stopped being too low, they bought heroin on the street, because it was cheaper and it was more available. And then, of course, fentanyl was brought in, I think, in the 90s, and that has changed the game again, because, as I said, so little of it can kill you. And then there's, another factor is just the shame that people feel around addiction. We've framed addiction as this, it means you're a weak person. It means you're a bad person. It means you're a dirty, worthless human. And it's like, addiction is a disease. I mean, especially when it comes to opioids, which change your brain chemistry. And from what I understand, they're like that kind of high is a kind of high that's unlike any other. And once you've tried that, it's very, very difficult, for most people impossible, to ever stop using. So the shame around that, the fact that people don't want to talk about it because somehow it reflects badly on them if a member of their family died from an overdose. You know, there was a while there when it wasn't mentioned in obituaries. Families would not say, you know, my son, my daughter, my husband, my wife died of an overdose, because it was seen as, you know, it was seen as, you know, a stain on their family. And we need to remove that layer of that obstacle out of our way of talking about this stuff openly, of having compassion for each other's struggle, of listening to each other, and trying to find our way out of this.
And what can you do? What do you think families can do better to talk with their children or family members about drugs and more openly? It seems like it's always kept in secret or always done in the dark. Kids don't communicate with their parents about drugs and things that they're doing. So how can they be more open? Like, what could be a better communication process?
I mean, that's a really good question. And I think that that's a question that we have to ask in a deeper way, and we have to ask constantly, and the answer may keep changing. But I think it has to do with, I heard once someone said, you know, in my family, there's a banner over the kitchen table that says, "We can talk about anything here." You know, and it's like literally anything can be discussed. And I mean, you know, the irony of it is that the Latterman family talked about everything too, right? I mean, Linda talked to Danny about his drug use. She said she would have put her hand in fire to swear that he wasn't using hard drugs. So there were friends of his that knew that he was using. So in some ways, this conversation is like, how do we get our kids to open up to us? How do we get young people to, first of all, aware of the situation? And so many kids feel, you know, I mean, I remember being a teenager and feeling like, you know, I don't want to tell my parents because they'll disapprove, because they'll think badly of me, because they'll be disappointed. How do we penetrate that shame, that fear, that immaturity, you know, because kids just don't have an adult brain. Not that an adult, you know, adult brain can be definitely overrated, but they don't understand that. They don't understand. I mean, that's a huge generalization, but I should say that I remember as a kid not understanding my mortality in the same way. I don't think I really, I thought I'm never going to die. You know, I'm young. I'll never be old. I'm never going to die. That's never going to happen to me. As we get older, we realize like life is finite. And the more we can understand that and appreciate that things can change from one day to the next. Someone can die, you know, in the next minute, and it's all over. And if you make a choice, like taking drugs off the street that you don't know what's in them, you are risking your life. So to open up that space of conversation between kids and each other, kids and us, is something that that is a real desire that was our desire in putting out this film, to open up that space.
And do you have any upcoming projects in the pipeline as well?
I do. I have a Netflix show coming out that I filmed in Vancouver last summer. It's called Keep Breathing. And it's a survival story about a woman who crashes in a plane, in a helicopter, and she, in order to find the will to survive and the endurance and in order to access the ingenuity necessary to build a fire and purify water, she has to face the demons from her past. So she has flashbacks to her past, and she finds, or she tries to find the way forward.
Also, I had to ask you, but the Oscars. um, so, like, what are your thoughts with the Oscars and what went down between Will Smith and Chris Rock?
What did you think?
Honestly, at first, I thought that maybe I said, okay, he defended his wife. Then I thought about it deeper, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, what about Chris? Like, what about him? Like, how is he feeling? And so I feel that it could have been better handled. Like maybe he could have come to the side after the show and talk about it. Where to the
Yes.
point where it was something that it was so big for him career wise, but it's like he I guess I don't want to say killed the moment, but yeah, he killed the moment. It's such a big award because I think what made it so bad is that happened and you won the biggest award of that night.
Oh,
I could see like if it happened and he didn't win anything, but you won like the biggest like best actor, it's like the biggest category, and you didn't apologize. Like you didn't apologize for what you did on camera. Or at least do that. That was pretty. Yeah,
oh my God. Do you know, well, first of all, I loved King Richard. I
yeah,
loved that film. I thought that film was incredible. And I actually went to school with Ingenue Ellis, who played his wife.
uh,
And I don't know if you saw, but later when he was giving his speech, there was a shot of her.
uh,
And I, I got to tell you, I'm not a big Hollywood gossip person. I'm not like,
yeah,
I couldn't stop thinking about this
yeah,
because it was so, it was like Greek. It's like that thing where, the god, you attain your greatest height, and then your fall is the longest fall, right? Because Will Smith, as you said, the height of his career, the height of glory should have been a moment of such, and I don't even know where he is now. Like my heart kind of breaks for him, man. Because who can't relate to like making a big mistake? I can. I mean, I it wasn't broadcast in that way, so I just feel so bad that his mistake was so publicized, I feel bad for everybody involved. I feel really bad for Questlove
yeah,
because he was up, his category was like, and the irony that this film, Summer of Soul, that was all about, this music festival some people didn't even know about,
yeah,
right? With all these incredible musicians, the irony that film should be affected by, by what happened, was very sad to me. But you know what? It also felt like this says something about the moment we're all in. We're in a bit of a shit show right now,
yeah,
and for good and for bad. There's beautiful things, and there's also crazy, out of control energy.
yeah,
Um, Even though I understood why he did that. And so that speaks to my temper, because I know that it's satisfying in the moment, to lash out. But as you said, then you think about it and you're like, yeah, that's the thing though. You have to find the resources to control yourself,
Yeah.
because that slap justifies, not justifies, but symbolizes like anger manifesting as violence. And we can't be doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he was acting out of fear and anger, like he was like a nervous that it was such a big award, or he kind of had a feeling that he might win, or he had a chance of winning, and he was fearful. And I think the energy just came out, yeah, indifferent, I guess. But at least kudos to Chris Rock for staying professional. That was a real example of doing your job and sticking.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. I know I couldn't have
I,
control myself.
I still can't, I still can't believe that happened.
Yeah, yeah. When it
I
happened,
still can't believe it happened.
yeah, when it happened, I thought it was like a skit or something, or maybe like
What's that?
I thought it was like a skit or it was staged because it was so just out the blue. Like, just staged, and I was waiting for like the punchline or something. I was like, no, this real. When he started yelling, I'm like, okay, yeah, 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 this is real. Yeah,
This is real, honey. This is real. People are, it's a whole new landscape of, like, we're coming out of this pandemic, and I think we're all just like, whoa, things are a
yeah.
little out of control.
Like everyone needs to breathe, breathe, and let the energy come down.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, I want to ask you,
Yes.
is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap everything up?
Um, I'd like to say thank you to you for giving me a chance to talk about this film. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Right. And also, do you have any social media where like fans could stay in contact with you?
Oh yeah. So my social media is Instagram, and it's my name, all lowercase with an underscore between the first and last names. So Florencia underscore Lozano, all lowercase. Oh, you know what I want to say? I want to say this. Um, Craig's mom's Grant is in the film. He played the poet on Oz. He's an incredible spoken word artist. He is a rapper. He is a dear friend of mine. We're in the same theater company in New York City called Labyrinth. And this was his last film. He passed away suddenly.
Mm.
Um, few months after making it. He is incredible in this film. Actually, I saw it the other night with my mom, and she leaned over afterwards and she was like, he is so good. And he really is. And I miss muMs. And I'm really glad. I'm really honored that he was in our film. But yeah, I just want to say I miss him, and you'll get to see him in this film.
Looking forward. Yeah, he's one of my favorite characters on Oz back in the day. The poet. Name, yeah, 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 I like it a lot.
He's so good.
Yeah,
He's so, do you know his raps? Do you know his original like poetry and stuff?
I know of it, but I'm not like no, I don't know everything, but I know of it. I know of it. He also did a lot on
He's
the
an
show.
incredible, he's an incredible, oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do. Yeah, he's and he wrote plays. He wrote plays with Labyrinth, with my theater company, and plays that were just magical. Like, he's so unique. There's no one like him. There's no one like muMs. And I loved him, and we had good times together. And he's a really important artist, and I hope people see his work and really that his work lives on.
They gonna be like, damn, that's hot.